sat back against my car seat and groaned. Oh no. I mean, my parents didn't know anything about my meeting with Scar, but Darren did. And I'm not the best liar. Oh, and he was definitely going to ask. I thought, well, I've got a week until I see him again. I'll be able to think of something. I went home and immediately pulled out my books and movies and things and started studying. Because that's what it was now, was studying. I read most of the Lord of the Rings series, not the whole thing, throughout the next week. Oh, so good. And now that I had seen it, it was so much more real and so incredible. The movies do great, but they just can't do it justice. Oh, it was absolutely phenomenal. And I enjoyed it so much. And the movies and just thinking about it. And I didn't pull out my sword, partly because Seraphin had told me not to, and also I didn't want to be seen throwing around an elvish sword in my backyard. But I went through the motions that he talked about and worked on getting my mental state so that I could, get good at using that. And I was reading The Return of the King as there was a knock on my door. And my mom was working in her studio and my dad was gone at work as well. And so I went down and opened the door, and Darren was outside, in work clothes. And he said, "You ready to go work?" I was like, "Oh, right, yard work." It had been a week already. I was like, shoot. But we went around to the back, got the gardening equipment out, and started back to work on the lawn. And I tried to think as we worked what in the world I was going to tell him. And I just didn't know. I wasn't sure. And my mind got sidetracked again. That happened a lot more throughout that last week than it usually had before. And as we finished up work, and he invited me inside again to come have some lemonade while he got the money, and poured myself a glass, and he had the money ready for me and handed it to me and had asked how the week had been. And I said, yeah, pretty good. I've just been enjoying the summer. It's nice to be able to do whatever I want, and I've just been doing a lot of reading and watching movies and things. And he said, "Oh, that's good to hear. And how, nothing happened with Scar, right?" And I said, "Yeah, no, nothing." And he looked at me for a minute and said, "You went and you met with her, didn't you?" I said, "Yes, I did. I'm sorry. I was curious. I didn't think anything would come of it, but nothing came of it, right?" And he said, What did she ask? What did she say?" And I said, "It was just like a survey." I said, "Wait, how'd you know she's a girl?" And Darren sighed and said, "I knew this would happen." I said, "All right, there's something I need to show you." I was like, "Okay." He led me down into his basement, and it was just this big workspace. He flipped on the lights and came down, and as I came down after him, just filled with all kinds of junk and stuff. But cool, not messy, though it was messy. But it was a cool messy. And he went to the corner and pulled out this massive chest and pulled out his key ring, fiddled through it, and put one of the keys in the lock and opened it up. And he reached inside and pulled out something wrapped in a tarp, something long. And he pulled it out and he started unwrapping the tarp, and he said, "Did it have anything to do with this?" And pulled out an elvish sword. And I thought, what? What? said, I knew this would happen eventually. I said, Reggie, I know Scar, and I don't know what lies she told you, but she's not who she says she is. He said traveling is real, and at one point I was caught up in it. I went to other worlds, got all kinds of other things, but it's not what they say they are. They are not good people, and they don't do good things. And you don't want any part in what they do. Trust me, I know. It's hard to say no to them, but it's not worth it. That was really sad for me to hear. But I knew Darren, I trusted him, and if he said something, like if he knew what was going on, I thought, you know what, I gotta trust him. So I said, what can I do? I said, well, don't have any more contact with her. The sooner you stop any kind of contact, the less retaliation there's going to be. Trust me, it's harder to get away from them the more time you spend with them. She may try to get aggressive. If that's the case, I want you to be safe. Said, I've got something for you. He went into a closet that was just packed with all kinds of random stuff. And he rummaged around and pulled out a jacket, a lightweight jacket, and went to his work table and rummaged through that, pulled out a little case of something, and he opened it, and mist came out. There were like glowing chips inside it, like technology chips. He reached in, pulled out one, they were all green, and he slid it into like where the tag usually is on a jacket. And he slid it in, and the jacket like pulsed with green light, like there were circuits or something inside it. And the green faded away to where I could barely notice it even when I was looking for it. And he said, this should be able to protect you from, anything if Scar tries to come after you. And she, sorry, lost my train of thought for a sec. But he had me try on the jacket, and it fit fairly well. It was a little big, but not bad. And I said, yeah, it works. He says, yeah, it's pretty good, and it's trustworthy too. And he grabbed a wrench and hucked it at me, and I ducked. But an inch before it hit the jacket, it bounced off and hit the ceiling and fell down to the floor with a little bit of plaster. And the whole jacket pulsed green with light the moment the wrench hit. I thought, whoa, that is really cool. He said, yeah, it's pretty sweet technology. He said, I've made some other things like this after I quit traveling. I needed to do something incredible, and so I've worked on making new technology. And again, that has a little to do with my work, but again, that's classified. Maybe one day I'll share that with you, and I suddenly thought Darren was a whole lot cooler now after this. He explained that the protection went up and covered my whole head, so if I fell on my head, I'd be fine. I'm in a little bit below, but it just protected the most important parts there. And he said, yeah, just cut off, let this all go quiet, and I'll ask how it goes next week. I said, all right, thank you, Darren. I said, yeah, I don't want you to have to go through what I went through. And I left his house, brought the gardening equipment back to my own house, and started a long week. I didn't realize how hard it would be. I had only gone to Rivendell that once, but it was so cool. And Yeah, I I missed it already. And I tried not to think about it. I turned off the mobile and put it in the bottom of my desk drawer and tried not to think about it, which was very, very hard. A week went by, and I had a hard time with it, but I'd managed it. Managed not to think about it. Did another week of yard work with Darren, and talked with him, shared how hard it was, and he said, "Well, you're doing a good job. I don't know if there's anything I can do to help, but if there is, let me know." I said, "Thanks." And I went back home, and I made it another day before I finally pulled out the phone again. I needed to go, and I made a decision. The Travelers might not be the best group. However, traveling itself couldn't innately be wrong, right? So if I could figure it out on my own, I should be fine. And so I resolved to do that. I turned on the phone. I'd missed a lot of calls and a lot of messages from Scar. And I could tell that she was kind of getting angry. But the last text that she had sent said, "Meet me Tuesday at the park." And I said, "All right, if that's when she expects me, I won't be there then. She won't expect me there now." And so that next day, Monday morning, I got up early. I put on the scabbard with the Elvish sword. I still didn't know quite how to use it, but I felt better having it on me than not. And I left the mobile at home, but I took Darren's jacket to protect myself. But first, just to make sure, I had done a little bit of looking at the mobile before I'd put it away, right? Like while I was studying that week. And there were all kinds of different things. One of those things was like a tracking device app thing. And it had a scanner to be able to detect tracking devices. And I checked the coat, and it didn't have tracking devices. So I felt certain about that, especially because it wasn't the same group's technology. So I thought, all right, we'll be good. I can do this. And I went out, and my dad was having breakfast at the table, and said, "Oh, hey, Reggie, what you doing up? What you up to?" I said, "Oh, I'm gonna go do some exploring in the woods west of town." It was true. I said, "Oh, that's great." I said, "Yep, I'm gonna have a good time." I was glad that the hilt of the sword was underneath the jacket, so the whole thing was nowhere to be seen. And got in my car, drove to the park. There was almost nobody out. Some crazy people running that early in the morning on a summer morning, but no people that I had to worry about. I went out to the grove and found the tree that we had used to get to Rivendell. And I closed my eyes, put my hand on the tree, and tried to feel for something. And again, I could almost feel like there was a presence of something on the tree. And I tried to hone in on that and use that to get to the other side, to get to Middle Earth. And it didn't work. And I sighed and dropped my hand and spun as a voice behind me said, "It's not that easy." Saw Scar standing on the other end of the clearing. End of chapter 3.